So Russians have managed to take some ground, but at the same time, those villages which they managed to take, they are not of critical importance. They don't have strategic importance.
Now, look, let's turn our attention to the situation in Ukraine. Russian troops are continuing to advance towards Kharkiv, Ukraine's second largest city in the northeast of the country. Thousands of people in towns in the region have been evacuated since Russia's major ground offensive began just over a week ago. The Russian army's usual tactic is to reduce towns and villages to ruins with aerial strikes before troops move in. Well, joining us now is the Ukrainian MP Oleksandr Merezhko. He's also chair of the Foreign Policy Committee. He's based in Kyiv and he serves as part of President Zelensky's party. Oleksandr, welcome to Times Radio. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me.
Give us your current assessment of the situation. Do you think there is a chance that the Russians could take Kharkiv?
First of all, I'm absolutely sure that Russians don't have enough military capabilities to take Kharkiv. And I would quote our president, who said that right now situation is difficult. It's not being stabilized yet in terms of front line, but at the same time, as he put it, the situation is under control. So Russians have managed to take some ground, but at the same time, those villages which they managed to take, they are not of critical importance. They don't have strategic importance. Our military, our army successfully repelling Russian attacks. In the last few days, there were like 62 or even more clashes between our troops and Russian army. But so far, we managed to, well, we are waiting for the supply of weaponry. It will play a crucial role in our defense.
You're right. The weapons will be important, but manpower is important. And your president, Zelensky, has said that, look, we are in danger of running out of manpower. There's more conscription that's been introduced in Ukraine. How worried are you about just the number of men? I was reading today that prisoners are going to be allowed to fight. How worried are you about the manpower situation?
On the 18th of May, the new law on mobilization or on the conscription has entered into force, and we are hopeful that very soon, within a month, we'll have enough manpower to continue successfully to defend our country. But of course, we need training, and it takes months for the new conscripts to join the ranks of their army and to enter the battlefield. Yes, in terms of manpower, we are outnumbered at the present moment by Russia, because Russia absolutely don't care about human lives, and they're ready to sacrifice thousands and thousands of their troops. That's why we're trying to save our servicemen, our military men. But I'm hopeful that soon situation will change. And one of the sort of arguments, what really gives us hope, is that we have started to receive weaponry provided by the United States. And soon on the battlefield, the changes will be felt.
And Oleksandr, in terms of President Zelensky, his 5-year term in office comes to an end this week. Obviously, there will not be any elections while the country is at war. But how do you think the Ukrainian public feel about the job he is doing right now? Is he still as popular as he was, or is there any sense of sort of fatigue and frustration setting in with the Ukrainian public?
I would say that despite some fatigue, which is quite natural because we're entering the 3rd year of very brutal war, despite all these factors, and despite president having to take sometimes unpopular decision to survive, most of our people in Ukraine, they understand very well that president is doing the right thing, that he needs our support. And the figures in terms of polls, they haven't changed much. Still, majority of Ukrainians support the president as a commander-in-chief.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, we're very grateful for your time this afternoon. Thanks so much for speaking with Times Radio. That's Ukrainian MP Oleksandr Merezhko speaking just there live from Kyiv.
We will provide an additional $2 billion in foreign military financing for Ukraine. And we put this together in a first-of-its-kind defense enterprise fund. And it has three components. One is to provide weapons today, so this will assist Ukraine in acquiring those weapons. Two is to focus as well on something that Dmytro just talked about, investing in Ukraine's defense industrial base, helping to strengthen even more its capacity to produce what it needs for itself, but also to produce for others. And finally, using this fund to help Ukraine purchase military equipment from other countries, not just the United States, for Ukraine's use. Of course, everyone's eyes are focused on the situation in the east and the northeast, in Kharkiv in particular. And so the newest support that I just announced, but particularly the $60 billion supplemental, we know is coming at a critical time.
Ukraine's exhausted artillery gunners holding off Russian forces near the eastern town of Kupiansk are hoping for a lifeline. The latest US aid package could be it, a potential game changer for Kyiv's forces. But it could take some time. One soldier, whose call sign is Sailor, says a shortage of shells has reduced Ukraine's covering fire for its infantrymen, costing lives and territory.
If they had passed the aid package bill earlier, we would have lost a bit less ground. We could have maybe taken back some ground.
The $61 billion aid package comes after 6 months of congressional wrangling. It could replenish Kyiv's critically low stocks of weaponry and air defences and likely improve its chances of averting a major Russian breakthrough in the east.
One voting present.
It's better now if we let them attack and we defend. But when the package will be a done deal, and we get the shells, drones and whatever else, then we do a 180-degree turn, gather our reserve forces and attack. We'll have our aviation with us, as it will be effective.
Kyiv still faces manpower shortages on the battlefield and questions about the strength of its sprawling frontline ahead of a potential Russian summer offensive. After months of political debates, a new, faster mobilisation law takes effect in May. But new civilian draftees will require months of training, which some analysts say could become a window of opportunity for Russia to exploit. Russia has been slowly advancing, with its superior troop numbers and artillery, since capturing Avdiivka in February, a long-time bastion town in the eastern Donbass region. They are now bearing down on the town of Chasiv Yar, which is located on high ground. If captured, that win would bring Moscow closer to the remaining Kyiv-held Donbass cities of Konstantinivka, Kramatorsk and Sloviansk. President Volodymyr Zelensky says Russian forces are able to fire 10 times more artillery rounds than Ukraine's troops. One of his generals estimates Russian forces outnumber Kyiv's troops by as much as 10 times in the east. Ukrainian positions have been pounded this year thanks to Russian air superiority and Ukraine's dwindling defences. One former Ukrainian defence minister said US-produced F-16 fighter jets, which Kyiv expects to receive later this year, would force Russian warplanes back entirely. EU assistance from June will include a Czech-led initiative to supply some 300,000 rounds of artillery shells. A senior European security source told Reuters optimistically that if Ukraine receives the new international assistance, the chances of averting a major Russian breakthrough over the next year are quite high.